Good evening. So we continue now. Hahuda Asalakame de Rebbe. A person came before Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi. Amarle, he said to him, Imcha Ishti, your mother is my wife. Va'ata bini, and you are my son. Basically, he was casting aspersions on his mother and saying that his mother had an affair with, Rebbe's mother had an affair with this man. Amalei, Rebbe said to him, Ritzoncha shetishte kos shel yayin, do you want to drink a cup of wine? Shasa, the man drank it, upaka, and he immediately died. Rabbi Chia said, Ahanya leit slose le Rebbe, Rebbe's prayers helped him, de lo lishvuye mamzera, that this person never got an opportunity to go around claiming that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was a mamzer, was a bastard. The Rebbe kihavi matzli, because when Rebbe would daven, Amar, he said, Yihi ratzon milfanecha Hashem Elokeinu, it should be the will before you, Hashem, our God, shetatzileni hayom, that you should protect me today, me'aze panim u'me'azus panim, from brazen people and from brazen behavior. And the commentators explain that the reason why the Gemara distinguishes between brazen people and brazen behavior is because there are certain people who frequently act in a brazen and disrespectful manner, whereas other people do not naturally act in a disrespectful manner, but perhaps if they're with a crowd of others who are supporting them, then they'll go ahead and be brazen. So that's why the Gemara says, protect me both from brazen people and from brazen behavior. B'divrei Torah maihi. Now, we had said earlier that prior to the study of Torah, someone should learn a mili dibdichusa, something sort of on the lighter side or on the sharp side to catch people's interest. Maihi, what's an example of that? Ki hadi Yosef Rabban Gamliel v'kadarish. Like Rabban Gamliel was sitting one day and expounded, Asida Isha Sheteled B'chol Yom, that in the future, in Messianic times, women will give birth every single day. Shenemar, because the pasuk says in Yirmiyah, Hara v'yoledes yachdav, that she will become pregnant and give birth in one fell swoop. So Ligleg Olav Oso Talmud. So one of the students sitting in front of Rabbi Gamliel, when he heard Rabbi Gamliel claiming that women would give birth on the same day, every single day, the student began to ridicule Rabbi Gamliel. And Amar already said, Ein kol chadash tachas hashemesh. Doesn't the pasuk say in Koheles that there's nothing new under the sun? So how can you say that women will give birth every single day if another pasuk says that there's nothing new under the sun and women nowadays don't give birth every day? So Amarle, Rabbi Gamliel said to him, Ba ver'aka dugmaso ba'olam hazeh. Come and I'm going to show you something similar that exists in the world today. Nafak, he went out, achvile tarnegoles, and he showed him a chicken. He said, just as chickens lay eggs every single day, so it shouldn't surprise you if a woman gives birth every single day. Now, we will discuss in a few minutes exactly how to understand this Gemara. Visu Yosef Rabbi Gamliel. Further, Rabbi Gamliel was sitting, v'kadarish, and expounding, Asidin ilanos shemotziin peros b'chol yom. That again, in future times, trees will bear a new crop of fruit every single day. Shenemar, because the pasuk says, v'nosa anaf, that the tree will carry a leaf, v'asa peri, and make a fruit. And from the fact that the pasuk is juxtaposing the leaf with the fruit, Rabbi Gamliel understood ma anaf b'chol yom, just like there's new leaves every day, af pri b'chol yom, there's new fruit every day. And again, ligleg of oso talmud, that same student ridiculed Rabbi Gamliel. V'aksiv, doesn't the pasuk say ein kol chadash tachas hashemesh? There's nothing new under the sun. Amalei said, "Bavar eka dugmasan ba'olam hazeh." Let me show you something similar in this world, a plant that is producing something edible every single day. Nafak, he went out, achvi leit slaf, he showed him capers. The caper plant, many different parts of it are edible at different stages of the growth of the plant. So he was showing him that just like you see on a caper plant, every single day it can produce something edible, so too is going to be with the trees in future times. V'suyas of Rabbi Gamliel v'kadarish, and further, Rabbi Gamliel was sitting and expounding, Asida Eretz Yisrael shetotzi gluskaos ukli milas. That in the future, the land of Israel is going to produce cakes and linen clothing. Shenemer, as it says, Yehi pisas bar ba'aretz, that there are going to be cakes in the land. And again, liglig of all of Oso Talmud. The student again ridiculed him. For Amr, he said, Ein kol chadash tachas hashemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. Amrlei bovar eka, come and I will show you dugma sun ba'olam hazeh, something similar in this world. Nafak, he went out. Achvile, he showed him kamein upatrios, mushrooms and truffles. Va'kli milas, and when it comes to the clothing, he showed him nivra barkura, a certain type of growth that comes around trees, which grows tremendously every single day. So when we see a Gemara like this, it requires a certain amount of understanding and interpretation. Are we meant to understand that literally this Gemara is meant to be taken? Is it meant metaphorically? And if it's meant metaphorically, how should we be understanding it? So among the commentators, as usual, there's a number of different approaches. The Hakosev, which is a commentary on the Ein Yaakov by the compiler of the Ein Yaakov, he says that Rabbi Gamliel did not mean his statement in a literal sense, but rather he was saying that in future times, things would be much easier to acquire as if they were growing right out of the ground. He didn't mean that the laws of nature would change. Rather, that each person would be able to acquire what he needs easily and won't have to work hard as they did in Talmudic times. Now, if we understand the Pshat in the Gemara in that way, then actually these things have gotten true today. We don't have to work as hard for our basic needs as people needed to during Talmudic times. Basically, we walk out of the door of our house and we march off to the nearest Walmart or the nearest supermarket, and we have all of the cakes, all of the clothing. I mean, nowadays, all you have to do is sit in your bed and order everything on Amazon. It gets delivered right to your door. So to understand this Gemara, it simply means that all of our basic needs will be much more readily available to us without all of the toil and strain of people in future generations. Then this is something which has become true already now. The Shiloh HaKadosh offers a couple of points to ponder about this Gemara. First of all, he says that it's possible that all of these things that the Gemara is saying are to be true in the future is a reference to spiritual concepts and not to actual material things. But then he says something else, and I'm going to warn you ahead of time, this is a bit controversial. I think that many in what I would call the yeshivish world will not accept what I'm about to share with you from the Shalah. But the Shalah says as follows. He says that one pasuk or any pasuk can be understood in a number of different ways. And Chazal would kind of look at the pasuk from every different perspective that they could find in order to find different ways of interpreting it. There's some interpretations that are the simple pshat of what the pasuk says. Others are more allegorical. And if you hear something and it doesn't make any sense to you that this medrash should be understood as a pshat medrash, then realize that it's a remez medrash. It's a medrash that is meant to be an allegory and is not meant to be taken literally. And he says, for example, over here when the Gemara says that in the future that cakes are going to grow off the trees in Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't mean literally that there's going to be donut trees and cupcake trees and babka trees, but rather it means that in the future there will be a tremendous amount of material bounty in the world. And he says that in general, when Chazal said these midrashim, they did not mean that these midrashim were a foundation of our emunah, or that they were part of the basic understanding of Judaism. But rather, they wanted to try to offer many different ways of looking at the psukim in order to try to tease out as much meaning from each pasuk as they possibly could. The Sefer Tiul Bepardes says a little bit along the lines of what we've been saying until now, that prior to the Chet Adam Arishon, prior to the sin of Adam, everything was a tremendous blessing. And Adam Arishon was able to get all of his basic needs very easily. After Adam's Avera, so Hashem decreed Kotz v'dardar tatzmiach lach, that thorns and thistles will grow for you, and b'zeas apecha tochal lechem, you're going to have to sweat in order to eat bread. But when the Gemara says now that in the future Eretz Yisrael is going to bring forth cakes and clothing, it means to say that even though nowadays achieving our material needs is difficult, as the Gemara says, it's koshek kriyas yamsuf. It's as difficult as the splitting of the Red Sea. But in future times, it's going to go back to the way it was in the time of Adam Arishon prior to the sin. Interestingly, oftentimes, I think the standard way people understand where the Gemara says that people's sustenance is as difficult as splitting the Red Sea, I think we generally understand it to mean somehow that splitting the Red Sea was difficult for Hashem, and sustaining everybody is also difficult for Hashem. But the Tiul Bepardes understands it differently, because as we just said from the pasuk by Adam Harishon, achieving our material needs is something that was a curse to Adam, that it's going to be difficult. And therefore, all things that we want to accomplish in this world that are worth accomplishing are going to be difficult. And therefore, just like it's difficult for people to achieve their material needs, so too when it came time to have the Red Sea split, it didn't come easy to Klal Yisrael. As the Midrashim say, Nachshon ben Aminadav entered into the Yamsuf and walked until Bo Mayim ad Nafesh, until the water was about to drown him, until he achieved the splitting of the Red Sea. He also adds that when the pasuk says "B'zeas apecha tochal lechem," That by the spread of your brow you will eat bread. So bread is frequently found in Chazal as a metaphor for Torah. And therefore it's also saying that achieving an understanding of Torah and knowledge of Torah, that's also something that doesn't just come easy, but it's something that's only going to come with a lot of sweat, toil, and hard work. Once again, this shir was sponsored Li'ilu Nishmas Chana Devora Bas Avram. And if anybody would like to sponsor one of these shiurim, please contact me on Facebook or by email at cslando@gmail.com. Have a wonderful evening.